Welcome back, everyone. This is episode 6 of the Shoulda Gone Pro podcast. We're back again. Happy Thursday. I think this is our first ever Thursday one. We got a couple of different things to talk about today. We waited a little bit just so that we could make sure that we got the All-Star starters for the NBA announced before we ended up doing this. They announced it probably about like half an hour ago. So we're gonna talk about that, give our reactions to those, and the one very surprising pick on that list. We're going to talk about the Baseball Hall of Fame class just got announced, and some surprises there, our opinions on that controversy, and then we'll make our predictions for this weekend's football games. We got some good ones coming up. So, Brock, how you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, like you said, one of those selections kind of shocked me a little bit with the All-Star game, but I mean, I think for the most part, it was all what everyone expected, aside from maybe one or two players you could maybe vote to sub out. But yeah, no, I think glad we waited. It was perfect timing, honestly. We All-Star starters got announced, and then here we are coming on.
Yeah. And if you watched our prediction last week, literally last Friday we did it. We did our All-Star starter ballots, and it was pretty even across the board how much we agreed on almost every single pick. There was two we didn't agree on. It was I picked Ja and Trey, and I believe you picked Booker and Levine. Those were the two I think we didn't agree on. And for the most part, we got almost every single one right. So LeBron, for I don't know how long I've been doing the draft for, but every single time that they've had the draft, now LeBron's been a captain, and he'll do that again this year. I mean, he's having a spectacular year, so you knew him and Curry would be in a foot race there at the end, but LeBron edged him out in the voting. But Curry's obviously on there as well. Jokic, who I feel like people are just starting to talk about enough now because he's having a spectacular season, and people were only talking about it a lot at the beginning, but I feel like he's getting more traction now in the news, so that's a good thing. And John Morant making his first ever All-Star appearance. He's jumping straight into the starter role, which, I mean, he's propelled that Grizzly team into contention. And we talked a lot about that last week about how good that Grizzlies team is, and they're fun to watch, and the future is bright for them and everything. And then there was one pick that we both picked Karl-Anthony Towns to be the last one as a starter. He's having a pretty solid year with the Timberwolves, but the nod went to Andrew Wiggins, who I don't think he's been an all-star in his career, and he's going straight to the starter role. Don't get me wrong, he's a key contributor on that Warriors team, which is having a great year. Wiggins has found kind of his niche on a winning team, which good for him. I know he's had some struggles with his confidence and his ability to carry that Timberwolves team back in the day, and he's finally found his role with this Warriors team where he can contribute and be part of a winning team. But he's named the starter over guys like Luka and Dame and Booker, and I was a little surprised, to say the least. They always say that the fan vote is part of it, and then the other part is like the executives and the media and the players and the coaches and everything. Those all go into it, the other half, and usually that half always outweighs I wouldn't say Wiggins necessarily a troll vote, but like the bandwagon fans that are voting for their favorite players, so that might not necessarily deserve it. Like we saw years ago that like Zaza Pachulia was super high up in the fan voting, but he didn't make the All-Star game because, well, he just frankly wasn't even close to being an All-Star that season. So everyone else that was taking it seriously enough that wasn't a goofy fan was knocking him out of it. But don't get me wrong, Wiggins is a good player. I don't think he lived up to the expectations that he had when he got drafted, but he's a good player. I'm happy that he's found a good spot. But man, this is a little baffling, to say the least.
Yeah, the only thing Andrew Wiggins has done of note in his career was win the Rookie of the Year, and then absolutely rob the Timberwolves blind with that contract. Just put a little bit of – I'm kidding. But, yeah, I mean, I definitely was shocked. Like you said, he's definitely found his role. I don't think he was ever really meant to be a star player in this league. I just think for some reason, just wasn't there. Was the number one pick, didn't end up working out. Definitely had an improved season this year, and it's really helped Golden State. Golden State was always, since they've lost Kevin Durant, never really found that consistent forward role. They've kind of plugged some guys in since then, and he's kind of solidified that spot this year. I mean, he's averaging, you look at the numbers, nothing popping, 18, 4, and 2, but he's improved. I think he's shooting a career high. I think he's over 40% from three, and he's shooting 45% from the field overall. That's really all you need on the Warriors. They don't need a guy who's going to go out there with a big ego, try and get him 25, and he's fit the role perfectly. But I do think it is shocking when you think he did go in over guys like, we picked Karl-Anthony Towns, but a guy like Cat, even as much as we despise Rudy Gobert, who's having a pretty good year. Utah's right up there. I was a little shocked. He was the only real name on that list that I was kind of like, what the heck? I don't want to say didn't belong, because Andrew Wiggins is still a good player, but I definitely don't think he deserves a starting nod. If he wanted to make the All-Star game as like a reserve or an injury replacement, that's fine. But I think to give him the starter nod, it was shocking, honestly. Like I texted you before the thing, and I was like, please tell me Andrew Wiggins is not actually an All-Star starter. And I looked, and lo and behold, he was. I can't. And then on the Eastern side, I obviously missed with the Trae Young pick. I should have known it was going to be Trae. Zach LaVine was hurt a little bit before the All-Star voting concluded. I thought that hurt his case a little bit. And Trae Young's having a tremendous season, so I knew that one was going to be a toss-up. And then same with the Devin Booker, Ja Morant. I think Ja Morant is having a better overall season individually. I think where I would have given Devin Booker the nod is team performance, but obviously that doesn't matter as much for the All-Star game. So yeah, starters are set. Should be an interesting one. I'm looking forward to see who some of these reserves are and get the teams built out in middle of February.
Yeah. I believe I don't know if it's next week or 2 weeks when they're doing the draft, but it's coming up fairly soon. I believe that they're announcing the reserves next week. But yeah, it was definitely a little bit of a surprise for Wiggins. I realized after I said it that Luka and Damon and Booker aren't the same position as Wiggins, but my case still stands that those guys are better all-stars than Wiggins. But yeah, on the East side, like you mentioned, Trae Young got the nod for the point guard, and then DeRozan is the other guard, and then the front court had Durant, Embiid, and Giannis, which we both picked those three pretty easily. I didn't think there's much question in that. The only difference is you picked LaVine and I picked Trae, but I almost had a perfect ballot if Wiggins didn't sneak his way in there. But yeah, it'll be interesting, and I'd be willing to bet significant money that Wiggins is the last person picked in the draft for the starter round, because Steph Curry's not a captain. If he was a captain, I'd say maybe differently because they're teammates, but I don't see I see Wiggins, because usually when they get to the end, they're like, all right, the last person on the list is Wiggins, and you're going to be on Team Durant or whatever. And I guarantee that's how it's going to go in a couple of weeks. But yeah, besides that, everything else stayed pretty part of the course. So I'm looking forward to the reserves, though. I'm looking forward to seeing some guys that might get their first nods that have been deservingly so. We talked about some of them last week. Like Darius Garland, LaMelo might get in there, and on that east side. And it'll be interesting to see who actually gets that nod. And I'm hoping that some guys get the opportunity and the recognition that they deserve, even if not playing for a big market team. They get some of that recognition that they've been playing well this year, but nobody really talks about them that much, you know?
Yeah, I think, and one thing to watch out for too, I think, is how injuries play a part in this, or even COVID. I know last year you mentioned, Durant not playing this year, but Durant didn't play last year. And then I don't know exactly how it shaped out, but I believe someone got hurt, and that paved the way for Mike Conley last year to make his first All-Star game appearance, which is kind of crazy to think that Mike Conley, for as good of a player as he's been for so long, was only making his first All-Star appearance last year. Mm-hmm. But I think that's another thing to keep an eye out too, how some of these injuries or even COVID play a part as we kind of get down to the home stretch here. That could open up a spot for one of those guys to kind of, I don't want to say sneak their way in, but make their way into the All-Star game and get some of that recognition. Because like we were saying last week, it's going to stink for some of these guys who, like a Darius Garland or LaMelo on the East Side specifically, who've had tremendous seasons this year. I think the Cavs are one of the most improved teams in the league. Kind of one of my shocks for sure. And I think he definitely has been playing at an all-star level, but it'll be interesting to see if they put him in over some of those guys. I think it's almost more like the name value, like a LaMelo Ball's more flashy. Obviously, Levine's going to get in, but it's gonna be interesting to see how it kind of plays out as those guys battle for those last couple reserve spots.
Yeah, no, I agree. It seems like every year there's always a couple that ended up getting the short end of the stick with that kind of stuff. There was a couple of years that Lillard was getting snubbed. I know McCollum's had some really good years with the Blazers too, and he's never been an all-star, even though there's a couple of years where I thought he should have been in over different guys. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see, and I'm hoping we get some new faces now that can get recognition they deserve for sure, that don't have to pray that they're an injury replacement. Oh, I know Booker was a couple of years too. He was really getting snubbed a lot until the Suns got good again. The years that they were bad, but he was putting up like 27 a game, and they weren't putting him in. I think there was one year, I don't know if it was last year or not, but there was a year that I think Beal was averaging like 29 or 30 a game with the Wizards, but the Wizards weren't good, so he didn't get in. And it's like, I understand that, but he's still putting up crazy good numbers. And I do understand that the team performance is an aspect of it, and how many shots they're getting a game obviously affects their scoring. But at that point, I feel like it's kind of crazy to think about. But yeah, we'll be covering the reserves when they drop. I think next week, and like we said, we're gonna have our own little fun version of a draft. So look forward to that. But the next topic we want to talk about before we get into the football games this weekend is they announced some voting results for the Baseball Hall of Fame and the new class coming in. And for those of you that were unaware, this was the final year for a bunch of these quote-unquote steroids guys, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens. I believe might have been Sammy Sosa's, and if it wasn't, he's close to the end of his as well. And none of them got in with this voting round. So that sparked a lot of controversy, and a lot of people were talking about it. Barry Bonds had hit the most home runs ever, and he didn't get his nod in his final year of eligibility, which is, to me, is a little surprising, because I thought in the last year they would have said, all right, just sneak him in there. But he ended up getting this left off the ballot. David Ortiz, first time on the ballot, he got in, rightfully so. I think he's definitely deserving to be a first ballot, so I'm not debating that at all. But with Bonds and Clemens and things like that, personally, I was a little surprised, and I think that the Baseball Hall of Fame is almost like, it's basically like a museum pretty much for baseball's history. And when people think of baseball, one of the first things they think of is home runs. And the guy that did the most home runs ever is not represented in the hall at all. So to me, it's a little surprising. I think he should be in. I agree with the whole thing about the steroids and how that might have juiced up his stats a little bit, especially towards the end of his career when he was just jacked for like crazy. But I do think that he should have been in. What's your take on that?
Yeah, and I agree. I was looking at his numbers yesterday, and I was reading an article on ESPN for him and Roger Clemens because I wanted to see when they thought they started taking steroids. And the ESPN article said that Clemens was in 1998 and Barry Bonds was in 1999. So I'm all for, like, I get the steroids thing. It's cheating, and you can't really rewarding cheaters. You've been taught all our life, cheaters never win. But I think when you take a look and deep dive into Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens' numbers, if you want to throw out the seasons after they started taking steroids, I'm completely fine with that. But I think in both of their cases, their resume up to that point had already cemented them both as Hall of Famers. So I think I was looking at Barry Bonds' number. He was a multiple time MVP, had over 1,500 hits, 400 home runs, 1,000 RBIs, all the milestones you need to get into the Hall of Fame. He was, overall 7-time MVP, but to think he won 3 MVPs before he was juiced, and that just shows you how talented of a baseball player he really was. And I think a lot of people forget back when he did play for Pittsburgh, he was a speed guy. I mean, he was not tiny by any means because they're professional athletes. No professional athlete's really small, but compared to what he was toward the end of his career, he was a smaller guy and was good at stealing bases. And then the home run swing started to develop a little bit later in his career. And then same thing with Roger Clemens. I personally think he had some of his best seasons, again, like Barry Bonds, before he was even caught or accused of doing steroids. Another multiple time Cy Young winner, had the two. He was even an MVP before that, which is rare for a pitcher to do as well. Cy Young and multiple time Cy Young MVP, couple of great seasons. He hit the 200 wins milestone even before that 98 season when he was, like I said, first, like I was on the article, was first accused of doing steroids. So I think, again, I'm all for, if you want to throw out there anything they've done post steroids, I think that's fair. But I think when you go back and look at their numbers of what they did before both of those players were in trouble for doing steroids, I think the numbers and their resume speak for themselves. And that's why I think they should have gotten to the Hall of Fame. And I do agree when you say like any Hall of Fame's like a museum, you go through those different eras. And the steroid era was, I don't want to say it saved baseball, but in a way it really did save baseball. No one really cared about baseball in the mid 90s and early 2000s. And then ESPN made a documentary, The Long Gone Summer, with Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. And it was just crazy what those guys were able to do. And then comes Barry Bonds. It really was an era that I don't want to say baseball can be, I don't know how to put this, maybe thankful for, because it really did save their sport. Obviously it's a dark time. You never want to have your top athletes cheating like that or anything. But it really did save the sport. And I think it kind of thrust it into the mainstream. And now, baseball's still having problems and guys are hitting, at least home run numbers are up all the way across the board. But it would be weird to think, or interesting to see where baseball would be without that steroid era of play and all those guys. Barry Bonds hit 73 home runs in a single season. It's crazy. It's crazy to think about that. And then that record probably won't ever get touched again. But the steroid era was one of the things that I think helped baseball become one of the more popular sports and kept it alive, because it really was struggling there for quite a few years.
Yeah, you're definitely right. Just the slow pace of play with baseball and everything makes it harder for a lot of the younger audience to really stay connected to it, besides if you're going to a game or whatever and that whole experience. But if you're watching on TV, it can be a lot harder for the younger audience to keep their attention span with the whole baseball game like that. I definitely agree. That's the topic for a whole other conversation. But I do think that they should be in. I know Alex Rodriguez was also on this year's ballot. I think this was his first time, and he did not get in. He got pretty close to the percentage that he needed to get in, but he did not. And obviously part of that's due to the PEDs as well. But it was, I was a little surprised. I thought eventually they would say, obviously these guys should not be first ballot because of what they did or anything like that. But I think that eventually there's that hole in baseball history without these guys there. And you're exactly right about the steroid era. It really reinvigorated baseball and brought people back to it. Kind of even it's always been like America's pastime, what they call it, and it's always kind of been that way. But that really brought it back to the forefront, where people were flocking to these Cubs and Cardinals games for the Sosa McGwire battle and stuff like that. So, and then now you see kind of a result of that, even though I assume these guys aren't taking PEDs like Sosa and McGwire were, but the home run numbers are through the roof, and that's really helped baseball kind of stick around a little bit too. So, I agree with you. I think they should be in, but I think there's one more chance that they can get in the fall, I believe. So hopefully, in my opinion, I hope that they get in there, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think they were saying, I heard, so the threshold is 75% of the votes. And when I was looking at who got, I mean, David Ortiz, obviously, congratulations to him, deserves to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, was great for the Red Sox. He got 77%, so he barely snuck in. But then I think this is the highest that Bonds and Clemens have gotten. I think they were up in the 66, 67% of the votes. So it just shows you how close they were. And yeah, they do get another chance. I don't know what the committee's called, but they were saying that they get another chance to get voted in. I'd really like to see them. I think the opinion on them has changed. I don't think a couple of years ago anybody ever would have expected them to be getting that close to being elected into the Hall of Fame. But I think it's just, I'm all for putting him in the Hall of Fame. Because I agree. They definitely did not deserve to be first ballot Hall of Famers, and you can't consider Barry Bonds the greatest baseball player to ever live, and you can't consider Roger Clemens to be the best pitcher of all time just because of that. I mean, their numbers were helped by a performance enhancing drug or performance enhancing steroid, and it's just not. I mean, it's not fair to people like Ken Griffey Jr. or an Albert Pujols or guys like that who did it all natural. At least we suspect. But I mean, you could say, I mean, you never really know because it was around all the time back then. But you'd like to think that there were some good eggs who decided that they wouldn't partake. But like I said, I'm all for letting him get in the Hall of Fame, and it's. I mean, I think that's the Hall of Fame committee will right their wrong and hopefully vote him in the fall.
Yeah, I agree. And you made a good point there too about a lot of these guys that we don't think took anything, but back then, I mean, testing was a lot less strict, and honestly, who knows what could have been happening underneath the table there? You would hope not, but honestly, who even knows? And today, people are trying to find ways to get around it and stuff. So it's kind of been this lingering issue for a long time, and that kind of sparked the issue to happen. But yeah, I agree. Hopefully they do get in the fall. But yeah, our last thing we wanted to touch on was there's the two conference championship games this weekend. We told you we were going to wait until this episode to make our predictions. Last episode, we went on a big rant about the last week's games, which were amazing games, and we ranted about Aaron Rodgers and the NFL OT rules and everything, and had a good convo about that. So if you didn't hear that, make sure to go listen to that. But yeah, this weekend we got two games that decided to go to the Super Bowl. Both on Sunday. I believe the AFC one is first. It's Bengals and the Chiefs. The Bengals have been your storybook pick, and so far you're riding high with that one. And the Chiefs pulled a cat out of a hat the last second against the Bills in that amazing game to be able to host the Bengals this weekend. Bengals did beat them at the end of regulation, a game-winning field goal by Evan McPherson, the greatest rookie kicker ever. And so it'll be, I think it'll be a great game too. How are you feeling about your Bengals against the Chiefs? You think that they'll be able to keep your prediction alive, or you think you're gonna have to change up here?
The season of miracles, Eric. I'm on it. The bandwagon is in full swing here. I'm taking my man Joey Burrow. I think, again, you saw the game they played in the regular season. Jamar Chase was electric. I definitely don't think Kansas City, which it was so strange because Kansas City did such a good job in the divisional round against Stephon Diggs. Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see how they handle another matchup with Jamar Chase. I don't know if Tyrann Mathieu is expected to play again or not. I would assume he would, since I think it was only, I don't want to say just only concussion because those are no joke, but with the concussion or the head injury that he had last game. So if he can play, obviously a huge difference maker for Kansas City. He's a playmaker in the secondary. And I think, again, I think they'll have some sort of answer for Jamar Chase. So it's going to be interesting to see if T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd and Uzama, I'm just going to go last name here, if Uzama and Mixon can get it going in the run game and the pass game. I think they're going to need other players to step up here. I think Cincinnati's defense this is going to be the toughest test they've had all postseason. They did, I thought, a pretty good job the last 2 weeks against the Raiders and the Titans to limit even when they allowed a big play, their defense rallied. They allowed a couple deep balls down the field to A.J. Brown. But I thought the defense was a lot of the bend, don't break. You can give up a big play, but don't just let the big plays pile on top of each other and allow a touchdown. If they can hold the Kansas City's offense to a couple field goals instead of letting them get the touchdowns, I think that's going to go a long way to giving them a chance and keeping this game competitive. I do believe, though, when they met up in the regular season, they got down like 21-0. Cannot do that in this game. Kansas City's offense is way too good. You do not have the playoff experience to play around with fire like that. Do not want to let Patrick Mahomes and this offense get rolling early. Going to have to make it tough for him, get some pressure on him, give him some different looks defensively. You can't do what the Bills did. You can't just let Tyreek Hill get wide open over the middle of the field and burn you for a 60, 70-yard touchdown. I mean, Kansas City's got so many weapons. It's crazy. I mean, if you double team if you double team Kelsey, Tyreek Hill is going to bust open and make a play and vice versa. But I think Cincinnati really does have a chance here. It's not just me on the bandwagon. They're a good football team. Joe Burrow is a tremendous quarterback. Kansas City's defense had a hard time stopping Buffalo. I'm obviously not putting Joe Burrow on the level of either Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, but he is a very dynamic quarterback, very capable. He's shown he can do some special things throughout the regular season and even continued into the postseason. I think Kansas City does end up winning this game. I'm gonna go off the pick a little bit just because I'm expecting them. I think Kansas City does win this one. It's super high scoring. I think they win it in a nail biter. I don't think that Cincinnati is going to come in there and get rolled over. They've been a tough out all postseason. If their defense can force some turnovers like they did against Ryan Tannehill, Mahomes has been a little bit at times this season carefree with the ball. So I look for this game to be very competitive, and I think Cincinnati is going to go into Arrowhead, give Kansas City a hell of a game, and I think Kansas City pulls it out late with maybe a late field goal or a last drive touchdown by Mahomes. Just something special. That's why, I mean, the guy's going to hosted 4 straight NFC championships and has a chance to go to 3 straight Super Bowls for a reason. Special talent, and it's going to be interesting to see not only Burrow, but Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, and all those young rookie quarterbacks battling to see who can knock off Mahomes in the future.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised you went against your storybook pick, but I'm gonna agree with you. My heart wants the Bengals, but my head is thinking Chiefs. This has been happening a lot this postseason with my head and heart disagreeing on things, but I am gonna stick with the Chiefs here as well. I think the inexperience on this stage is going to be too much for the Bengals. I mean, their top guy, even though he's a rookie, having a fantastic year, I think that's still just a lot to take in. And the O-line for the Bengals, I'm really concerned about in this game. They're going to have to play a fantastic game because last week they were obliterated by the Titans. They were just able to pull it out, even though Burrow was getting beat up back there, and the O-line was just letting people walk by him. It was awful. And we saw what the Chiefs were able to do to Josh Allen. Josh Allen was having to run around a lot last week, trying to improvise, make plays with the defensive ends chasing him around. And the Bills have a decent O-line, and Josh Allen is one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the league this year. Joe Burrow and that O-line does not necessarily stack up well to Josh Allen and them as far as pass protection. So I am heavily concerned about the Bengals in that instance. I think if they're able to get back to Burrow quick enough, they're really going to shut down the passing game. And Jamar Chase can burn people down the field with those double moves and just his straight up speed. And I think that's going to be shut down if they don't give him the protection to throw the ball. I'm thinking we're going to see a big game from all these possession catching type guys like a Tyler Boyd or like a Uzama. Might see a lot of mixing out of the backfield kind of thing, just because they're going to realize that the Chiefs know that the Bengals O-line is bad and they're going to send some heat. So I would expect big games from other guys, and then hopefully that opens up the area for Jamar Chase to get through. Um, and the Bengals defense is definitely, after watching the past couple of weeks in the postseason, really have to step up to the plate against these good teams and win or go home games. I definitely think that they're a lot better than what I thought they were. I think their secondary is definitely better than I expected. I know their leading pass rusher, I think he has the most sacks in Bengals history for a season, Trey Hendrickson. He's fortunate 15 sacks this year, a great year for him. I know he got injured, so I'm assuming he's going to be playing, but I'm not 100% sure. But if he's out, that's a huge loss for them to kind of keep Mahomes on his toes, because we saw last year in the Super Bowl, the way to take out Mahomes is by not allowing him time to get the ball to Hill and Kelsey and that. So I would expect a lot of heat be sent towards Mahomes, and it's really going to end up being the Chiefs' O-line and being able to hold up, and then the secondary for the Bengals having to play a good game, which I think they definitely can. But I think the edge is going to go to the Chiefs here. Just they've been here too many times. They know how it goes. I hope in my heart that I'm wrong about this, but I am picking the Chiefs to win and go back to Super Bowl again. So I think it'll be a great game, though, like you said. So
Yeah, I hopped off the bandwagon here, and I'll say it now. If the Bengals win this game, I will personally go buy a Joe Burrow jersey because it is my fault that I've rode
you're
them.
locking that in right now.
I'm locking it in. Listen, I'll say it right now. Guys, I'm fans. I apologize for hopping off the bandwagon. And if they are to pull it out, which I don't think at this point is honestly crazy at all. They've played tremendous in the postseason. I'll do it. I mean, my guy Joe Burrow. I don't know what else I can do. It seems like a fair punishment for hopping off the bandwagon this late.
Wow. Hey, well, just I don't know if you forgot, but this this is recorded, so you got evidence here. If for some reason, if somehow on Sunday the Bengals pull this out, which I think they legitimately can, but I don't know if they will. If they if they do, you got to go drop a bag on that Burrow jersey.
It's only right. It's only right. I mean, I can't think of anything else I could do to make it up for to Bengals fans. I mean, I gotta do it somehow, and I think that's a great way to do it.
I'm hoping the Bengals pull it out, and I'm hoping next week we'll do a podcast and be wearing a Joe Burrow jersey. So um, that'd be fun. But yeah, we both picked the Chiefs with our heads, but Bengals with our hearts. So the other side is the Rams and the Niners. NFC West matchup in the NFC Championship game. The Niners have won the last 6 times they've played the Rams. So Niners definitely have had the Rams number the last couple of years. And obviously there's a lot of different pieces this year than in previous years, but they did lose to the Niners both times in the regular season. So that's something to definitely keep an eye out for. I think this game will be closer than people think it will be. I think people are definitely leaning towards the Rams just because of their star power, and are kind of forgetting about how good the Niners played, even though their offense wasn't great. How well they played, especially defensively against Green Bay last week. I think people have kind of forgotten about that a little bit, and not like they should. However, though, I am going to go with the Rams, and my reasoning is the quarterback play. I think Stafford is ready for ready for this after we saw. I mean, he had a good game against the Buccaneers. It was just everybody else just allowed the Bucs to come back, but he had a good game there. He had a fantastic game against the Cardinals, and I see the Niners coming into the town here, and I think Stafford's going to find the holes in the secondary. Cooper Kupp just seems to find a way to get open every time, and it's crazy because he's not like top tier fast. He's not like super tiny or super tall. He's just like a middle of the pack guy as far as a lot of like the base attributes go for a receiver. I mean, he's one of the best route runners, though. I will give him that. But that really helped him stand out. Like Tyreek Hill, you see him and he gets open so much because a lot of it because of his speed and the route running came with his speed, But Cooper Kupp doesn't really have one particular thing outside maybe his route running that really makes him stand out like that, like a Tyreek Hill does. And it's so crazy how much he's able to get open. But I think the Rams are going to send heat at Garoppolo and cause him to make some mistakes. It's crazy how much, if you think about it, how much we talk about pass rushes, but they are, at this point of the season, they're extremely, extremely important, because all these quarterbacks are great quarterbacks that are left. So, or at least quarterbacks that know how to win. So, but I'm gonna stick with the Rams here. I think Garoppolo's gonna make too many mistakes. I think Aaron Donald and Von Miller are gonna feast on Garoppolo in the backfield, who is not necessarily 100%, and it's gonna be a good game. I think that the run game will have to have a good game for the Niners. Deebo Samuel will have to do the hat trick again with everything of running the ball, catching it and passing it and everything. They're going to have to keep him going. I do like both of these coaches' play callings, so I think that they'll be able to keep themselves in the game by switching out their play calling. I think Kyle Shanahan has done a great job with sticking to the identity of the team, which was a ground and pound team, but also having these trick plays up his sleeve or these play designs that just get people open so well. I can't tell you how many times over the past couple of weeks I've said about Niners and Rams games for McVay being a great play caller too, where I'm like, they're making great play designs here that are really tricking the defense. So, but I'm going to lean on the star power of the Rams, and I think it's going to be a Chiefs-Rams Super Bowl, with the several-time Super Bowl quarterback Patrick Mahomes and first timer even getting past the wild card round, Matt Stafford. So, but I'm going with the Rams here.
I've got my eyes set on a rematch from 2 years ago. Give me the Niners in this one.
Really?
LA scared. They were not selling tickets to anybody outside of Los Angeles. It shows you how much of an impact Niners fans had. I think they changed the policy now, but yeah, for a while they weren't letting anyone outside of like the Los Angeles area code buy tickets because San Fran packed the house the last time. And so, yeah, I mean, it's basically a home game for both teams, but I'm leaning Niners here. I like their running game a lot more than the Rams, excuse me. I think they're going to be able to control the clock, do what they do well. And I like Deebo in the running game. Teams have not come up with a consistent answer to stop him all postseason. He had a tremendous game against Dallas in the first one, ripped off that long touchdown. I think he had 72 rushing yards and more. He had more rushing yards and receiving yards against Dallas. He had the crucial play on third down against Green Bay that iced the game for him. And I think that's going to be I think San Francisco's dumb if they don't give him the ball out of the backfield 9-10 times and let him see what he can do with it. I would also not be surprised here if Kyle Shanahan in the back of his head has about 5 or 6 plays that he has for Trey Lance to be on the field for. Haven't seen him at all this postseason. You saw, I think it was even in the first couple weeks of the season, even the Bears did it with Justin Fields. They would send him out there for a couple special packages. Trey Lance is a tremendous athlete, can run with the football, has a cannon for an arm. It would not at all shock me if San Francisco did a trick play or two here or there with Trey Lance, a quarterback run, something along those lines to get him a little bit involved in the game and just give the Rams a look they hadn't seen, maybe catch him off guard. Because it really, I think in the playoff games like this where the two teams are so evenly matched, it really only takes a splash play here or there to swing the game in one way. And I think Jimmy Garoppolo is really starting to get some confidence. He really struggled for really 3.5 quarters of that Green Bay game, made some big throws late in the fourth quarter over the middle of the field to get his team in field goal range. The mistakes do scare me because I think at times he is really loose with the football. Had the terrible interception against Dallas that let him right back into the game. And even against Green Bay, he held the ball too long and tried to make a play that wasn't there, threw a pick in I think it was in the red zone. I know it was on like the 2 or 3 yard line that the guy from the Packers, that Amos from the Packers picked it off. Mm-hmm. But I think if Garoppolo can just play smart with the football, the 49ers can establish the run game, really utilize the play action, get Kittle involved in the passing game, Debo Samuel in the running game, as well as Juszczyk in the passing and running game. And then, I mean, Elijah Mitchell, what a story he's been, the 6th-round pick rookie this year.
Yeah.
Just missed a 1,000-yard season. I mean, the Niners they had Raheem Mostert a couple of years ago when they went to the Super Bowl, who was tremendous. And I think the Niners have just continued to plug in running backs, and it works. Credit to Kyle Shanahan's system. He's great. Great coach. Yeah, this is going to be a battle of two young offensive minds. It'll be interesting to see what McVay does on the other sideline. I like this is such a tough game to pick because the way Matt Stafford has been playing in these playoffs, it's hard to pick against him. I mean, what he did against Tampa Bay was, I mean, it was incredible. That throw he had to ice the game and set up the game-winning field goal was incredible. That might have been the throw of Matt Stafford's career. Really and truly, he's handled all the pressure well. I mean, he could have crumbled when Tampa Bay stormed right back and tied the game up late in the fourth quarter. Didn't, kept his composure. But Niners are hot right now. They're feeling good. They're coming off 3 straight road wins. Why not make it a 4th? Tampa Bay did it last year on the road, swept the whole thing, ran the gamut, won the Super Bowl. Not saying Niners are going to win the Super Bowl or anything, but I like them to knock off the LA Rams at home in SoFi here. And I'm sorry to say it, Rams fans, but you are not going to be the second team to ever play the Super Bowl in your home stadium. And yeah, I think this is going to be, I don't know if this is a great matchups this weekend. I'm looking forward to both of them, but like I said, I got Chiefs winning on the AFC side, and another narrow one here. I could see the Rams definitely blowing the 49ers out here. I can't see the 49ers blowing the Rams, and I think the Rams offense is just too explosive to really get blown out, especially the way they're playing right now. So I think I like San Francisco a lot better in these close games. They've played a lot of them. They've gotten experience with it. I mean, all their playoff games have been decided by a touchdown or fewer, and I think they're at this point used to playing those tight games. So I have them going on the road, knocking off Matt Stafford and the Rams, and getting Jimmy Garoppolo to his 2nd Super Bowl.
I will say, I feel like these last 4 teams, anybody can win it all at this point. I feel like every team kind of has an area where you might be a little bit concerned about them, and they all have their strengths to the point where you can see any of them being able to pull this out. So I would not be surprised either if both my picks are wrong. At the end of the day, I do like your comment you made for the Niners about getting some of these guys in there that can make plays that we haven't seen much of, with Trey Lance and Juszczyk, who I feel like they use him in a lot of special packages too, and he's more than he seems like he's more than just a fullback. He's kind of like this utility guy that can just go out there and catch passes as like a tight end type guy, and he can run the ball at the backfield and has really good speed for a fullback, and I think he could be a good X factor too. So kind of keep the defense on their toes. But I'm gonna stick with the Rams. But honestly, I can see this going either way. But I'm kind of hoping in my heart that I see we're in a Joe Burrow jersey soon. So, but yeah, it should be another good weekend of football. We got 2 great games, and then we'll go from there. So yeah, was there anything else you wanted to add on here?
Yeah, I saw had a little bit of some breaking news today. Some head coaching hires. Nathaniel Hackett, Green Bay Packers offensive coordinator, going to Denver. Be interesting. You know, Denver's moving off a defensive coach, and Vic Fangio didn't necessarily have really any success as a head coach. Would love Vic Fangio back on the Bears, but you know, good for Hackett, the Packers offense. I wonder, it'll be interesting to see again. I think he's one of those guys that you can ask the question, okay, well, how much of these plays are you actually calling, and how much does it help to have Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback? Nonetheless, Green Bay's offense the last 3 years with LaFleur has been tremendous. They've won 13 games each of his 3 seasons. And so, I mean, he obviously has some intangibles that intrigue Denver. You know, best of luck to him. Good for Denver. they got the guy they want. I think that's all that really matters in these situations is getting the guy you want. If you feel comfortable about it, go ahead and pull the trigger. And then the Bears, I think it's a little bit funny. We just fired Ryan Pace, Matt Nagy. Who do we hire? GM Ryan Poles, head coach Matt Eberflus. So we're going from Ryan and Matt to Ryan and Matt again. We'll see how this works out this time. I gotta say, as a Bears fan, not overly thrilled we went the defensive route for a head coach. I was hoping we would go get one of the offensive guys like a Brian Dable or a Byron Leftwich, potentially from Buffalo and then Tampa Bay. We went defense. From everything I've heard, the people in Indianapolis have said that Eberflus is a great, which I mean, obviously they're going to say that because that's their guy, that's their candidate. But I mean, Indianapolis's defense has been tremendous over these last couple of years. Obviously, have some great players on defense, Darius Leonard as well as DeForest Buckner. But I mean, you look at Bears history, the last successful head coach that we really had in the last 10, 15 years has been Lovie Smith, and his philosophy was defense. So as long as Eberflus hires a good offensive coordinator and a guy that meshes well and wants to see Justin Fields succeed, I think that would. I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see how that works out. But I mean, that's gonna have to be the route. We have to get somebody in there offensive minded who's going to have Justin Fields and the offense's best interest in mind, because I can't stand to watch another 17 games of the Bears just look pathetic and lethargic on offense. It will kill me. I will have gray hair by the end of next season if it happens, guys. And we can't. I'm sick of watching them lose. We need to get back into the playoffs. And I saw someone tweet today after the news that Eberflus was looking at the Eagles passing coordinator. I can't remember his name, but I don't know why the hell we're going there. Philadelphia couldn't throw the ball at all. Jalen Hurts isn't even that good about throwing the ball. I don't get it. Get somebody in there that loves Justin Fields, is going to do what's right for him to build around his game. And I think, if again, this all comes back to Bear. I'm not thrilled about it, but if the Bears think they got their guy and Eberflus was the one who wowed them and blew them away in the interviews, then congratulations to the guy. He's the next head coach of one of the best and proudest franchises in NFL history. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens next year, but I'm excited. I'm glad that the Bears, at least, I'm glad we didn't wait too long and missed out on a candidate. I'm glad we did our homework, our due diligence, interviewed a bunch of people on both sides for both the head coach and GM, and made our decision. And I think at the end of the day, you can be happy that we weren't for one guy looking to go after one guy and he got hired somewhere else. So we were kind of stuck in limbo. Yeah. Got our guy, liked it. Like I said, we saw Sean Payton was retiring a couple of days ago. I was hoping maybe that opened the door for the Bears, but I would assume Payton leaving a great situation in New Orleans, I would assume he's probably done. What an illustrious career he had. But yeah, I mean, a little bit of head coach breaking news to close out the show. I don't know if there was anything else you wanted to add or not.
No, yeah. That totally slipped my mind earlier to mention those. So thank you for bringing that up. But yeah, I think that the Broncos hire could be a negative in the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes for the Packers. I mean, I've heard a lot of rumors about the Broncos wanting to get Aaron Rodgers in free agency and trying to make a run at him. So maybe that's them saying, we do believe in this guy to be our future guy, but we also think this might help in our case to get Aaron Rodgers out of Green Bay and bring him to Denver. So honestly, that could be something. I mean, Peyton Manning left the Colts that he was with forever and went to the Broncos. So, I mean, who knows at this point, but I think that hurts Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay chances, but I do think that's good for the Broncos to get an offensive-minded guy because they've been a defensive team as far as their talent distribution. They feel like they've leaned more heavily towards their defense for a while. They do have pieces on offense where they can build on, but I think the new hire will definitely be Hackett will definitely be able to come in and hopefully utilize those well. But on the Bears side, I feel like they should have gone offense as well, and I was a little surprised to see them go defense for the head coach hire. they already have I feel like personally they have a decent defense that is definitely able to keep them in ball games, and the offense has been the area that's been lacking. I would have brought in like a guy that's a great QB guru type guy that can really help Justin Fields flourish because he has the tools, but they're not polished yet for NFL level play. And I feel like they needed a guy that would come and be able to do that. I don't think that the new hire will be able to fill that role. I did see a story about the GM for the Bears just got hired. He was an undrafted free agent, I believe, on the Bears years ago. And then he ends up becoming the GM of the team years later. So it's kind of funny how that timeline worked out. But Bears hires I'm a little questionable about. Again, like you said, if they got their guy, then they got their guy, and hopefully they're happy about it and things work out for them. But I think the Broncos hire is a much better one. As for Sean Payton, I was a little surprised to see him leave, and then they were talking about it, and they do have the worst cap situation in football by a decent chunk. They're in negative money at this point. They just threw Taysom Hill a big bag, which confuses the heck out of me.
You're paying the guy to be a fullback. Honestly, I just don't get it. I mean, yeah, that's another one of those like questionable contracts I saw, and I was like, what the hell? Like, why is Taysom Hill getting paid Patrick Mahomes money when he's like, I don't know, Tim Tebow, pretty much. Like
he's a gimmick, really. I mean, he's got some athleticism and some of these tools where he could be a decent backup quarterback, but I don't see him being much more than that at all. It's really surprising to me that they keep throwing the money at him. He must be really good in negotiating, but I was a little surprised to see Sean Payton go. He was the second longest tenured head coach behind Belichick in the NFL. He was there. He came in after Katrina happened and really reunited that city around the Saints football team and got them their only championship with Drew Brees. So I was a little surprised to see him go, but I questioned if he wants to come back and coach somewhere else. I don't know if this was his way of getting out of a situation that didn't have Drew Brees anymore. He felt like he needed to kind of go to, or if he actually wants to do football. So that's something to definitely keep an eye on as time goes forward. I'm sure people will be trying to interview him still for head coaching jobs, and we'll see if he ends up taking those interviews or not. But if not, I mean, outside of the allegations he had and stuff, he was a good coach. So if you're able to look past those, which they weren't the biggest things, but they were definitely not good by any means. But it's a interesting time. Head coaches are starting to find some places. I'm sure as we get past these games here, and then once the Super Bowl wraps up, I'm sure people from those teams are going to be big names in the hiring process as well. I keep going back to Eric Bieniemy with the Chiefs as being one of these guys. I'm thinking that some of these teams that don't have a head coach right now are kind of holding out. They're secretly hoping in the back of their minds that Chiefs would have lost last weekend so that they could have been interviewing him right now. But I think they might be holding out for him too. So you made a great point, though, about a lot of these teams, like the Bears didn't hold out for one guy and not get him. They did their due diligence. So I don't think every team is doing the same, though. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on, and we're going to hear a lot of news about it coming forward.
I just want to add one thing. Two things, actually. You mentioned Eric Bieniemy. Like, I feel like no one really – I didn't even really hear his name pop up in any head coaching searches or anything. It was mostly like the Brian Daboll, Brian Flores, Byron Leftwich, Dan Quinn. I can't remember who Tampa Bay's defensive Todd Bowles. Yeah. And it's like, how does this guy continuously get passed up for not even a head coach job in general, but just an interview? I mean, what Kansas City's been able to do during his tenure as offensive coordinator and just offensively, it's been tremendous. It's not fair and it's not right that he continuously gets passed up. How the hell does Joe Judge have a head coaching job in the NFL and Eric Bieniemy does? Like, it just doesn't make sense. I don't get it. How he even he's just getting passed up for some of these opportunities that he definitely should be getting. And then one quick other thing about I would like to point out, I am thrilled, however, about the Bears GM hire, Ryan Poles. I think he kind of worked his way up the Chiefs system worked a little bit with scouting, and then is now the executive director of player personnel. So if he was at all responsible for some of these drafts that Kansas City's had, getting talent like Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, and all those guys they have, I mean, hats off to him. You've done a tremendous job. You've done your homework. Hopefully he can bring a little bit of that to Chicago, get some offensive lineman help, hit on these draft picks, because the Bears are in a spot right now where they don't really have a whole lot of cap space, and they don't have a first round pick this year. I don't think they have a third either. So you're not getting some of these higher end picks. So you're going to have to go into those late rounds, the second, third, fifth, sixth, and seventh rounds, and get some quality talent that's going to be able to make a difference for your football team. And if Ryan Poles can do that, I mean, he'll be loved in Chicago. He will passionate fan base. And yeah, I mean, if he can hit on some of these draft picks, spend our money wisely, and get this team going again, it's bright times. I'm excited. It's going to be interesting to see how Eberflus and Poles, what roster they put together this offseason, and how the Bears look, and really how all these teams look. A lot of these head coaching jobs still up for grabs. And I think we had the two dominoes fall today. I think in the next coming days, definitely the next week, I think all the dominoes will be filled. And I think most to all of these head coaching jobs will be filled.
Yeah. It's definitely at that point now where these teams are figuring out who they want, and they're starting to do a lot more interviews and get that process done. And how many of these guys are going to get second chances too? Because we got like Dan Quinn was the Falcons coach for a while.
Todd Bowles,
yeah,
coached the Jets. Poor guy. Oh my God.
I think I said it last week, or I said in a past episode. I said if you coach for the Giants or the Jets, they shouldn't fully judge that as your head coaching experience. They should kind of put that to the side because of how bad those franchises are as in general. I mean, just the crappy situations these coaches get put in when they get hired into those jobs. But yeah, be interesting to follow along with that as well as football season starts to wrap up. So, yeah. Was there anything else that you wanted to add on? Or?
Enjoy it, guys. Got 2 more weeks of this. Relish it while you can. Rewatch all the highlights you can. Tape record the games. Watch them in the future. But 2 more weeks of the NFL, and then we've got a long 9 months until the season starts back up again. But you know, we'll promise we'll keep you entertained. We won't pound the football that hard in the off season unless anything breaking happens. Obviously, when contract time starts up, and you know the draft, obviously. But you know we'll keep mixing in some sports. Got pretty weird tonight. Got a weird mix of 3 in this episode. I definitely didn't expect to ever talk about the NBA, MLB, and NFL in one episode, but we got it. And yeah, I mean, it's as the NFL is winding down, the NBA's just heating up, and hopefully the MLB can get their shit figured out, and we can get that season started on time too. So we'll have plenty of content to keep doling out to you guys.
Yeah, for sure. We got plenty of basketball stuff coming up soon. Again, hopefully baseball figures their stuff out, and we'll keep going from there. We're not planning on slowing down, even though football is wrapping up. So stay tuned for some good stuff in the future. But thank you again for listening, guys. We appreciate all your support. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at GoneProPod. We'll be posting stuff there. I haven't been posting as much as I really wanted to on Twitter, but I'm looking to get that back up again. I was posting a little bit during some of the games, but I'm looking to probably post some more as we get things going. So definitely keep your eyes out on that stuff. And we also post on there when new episodes drop and everything. So make sure you drop us a follow on there. We appreciate it.
And I think we're gonna maybe plan on putting the we'll have you guys weigh in. We'll put up if you guys think Bonds and Clemens deserve to be in the Hall of Fame or not. We'll have that little poll going. Let us know what you think. I mean, definitely a controversial topic. I mean, but now we'd love to know what you guys think, and let us know. Let us know with the votes in the comment section.
Yeah, no, exactly. We want to engage with you guys. We want to talk to you guys. If there's something you guys want us to talk about on here that we haven't talked about, you can let us know. I believe our DMs on there are always open, or you can just tweet at us or whatever. And we want to talk about what you guys want to hear. So it's kind of a two-sided thing there as well. So yeah, just let us know and don't be shy. But thank you guys for listening. We appreciate everything, and we will see you next week. Enjoy some football and have a good weekend.